Does distance affect damage? Yes, but not how you might think. All projectile attacks, such as rockets, arrows and syringes, are affected by damage fall-off, which means that the further they travel, the less damage they do. Or do they? In Uncle Dane's Wrangler video, he showed that the damage done by the sentry while holding the Wrangler is not affected by how far away it is from an enemy, but how far away you are. I was wondering, does this affect projectiles as well? For that, I decided to investigate and tested every single projectile weapon, reskins not included. First, I shot an enemy at distance normally, and then I instantly teleported myself towards them. Obviously, I couldn't test hitscan weapons like the shotgun or the minigun, since they hit the mark instantly once you fire them. I also didn't test additional stats like mini-critting airborne targets with a direct hit or the flamethrowers, because I didn't want to. During repeated tests, I noticed a slight difference in damage numbers, meaning projectiles did 1 or 2 damage more or less on the same distance. However, the actual amount of damage or distance was irrelevant for my tests, since I only wanted to see if there was a difference to begin with. But here are the results. Out of 31 weapons tested, 20 saw a difference in damage numbers and 12 didn't. All of the rocket launchers were affected, doing about twice the amount of damage when teleporting near the target. Grenades, however, did the same 100 damage no matter how close. The Huntsman and Crusader's crossbow showed no increase either, which could be due to them being similar in behavior, by both being arrow-type projectiles that stick to the target. Despite doing the same though, the Rescue Ranger did have an increase in damage. Weird. I had expected the crossbow to do less damage on close impact, since it usually does more damage based on distance traveled. This means that, unlike most other projectiles, the crossbow actually does factor in distance traveled for damage fall off, and not distance away from the player. In other news, all projectiles of the same type, like flares, syringes and the aforementioned rockets and grenades, behaved the same throughout the same type. Each syringe dealt more damage when close, and none of the flares did. Interestingly, while the Rap Assassin and Sandman featured similar projectiles, the Rap Assassin did actually do increased damage. Funnily enough, the bauble also does critical hits if it flies through the air enough, which is neither mentioned in its weapon description nor on the wiki. And no, random crits were turned off for testing. At first, I was worried about testing the short circuit, since it passes through enemies and hits them more than once, but both the first and all impacts did the same amount of damage both times. In a similar vein, the Righteous Bison passes through enemies as well and even made 2 hit sounds, but still only dealt damage once. The most interesting thing to me, however, was that Stickies also saw an increase in damage the closer I was to the target. For a weapon that was originally designed to lay traps for unsuspecting enemies, it's odd how it would do less damage the further away the player is. Surely, you'd want to be far away from your trap so that you don't get hit by the explosion? So, how is this information useful? Not in the slightest. The only classes for which this could be relevant are soldiers and demos who shoot at enemies while rocket and sticky jumping towards them. For everyone else, unless you shoot a projectile at someone before taking an enemy's teleporter, whose exit is right next to the enemy you are firing at, you won't ever really be affected by this, and it's just unnecessarily confusing and inconsistent otherwise. Valve, please fix.